Now, it seems elections have put the brakes on new vehicle sales in May. That's to have South Africans focus on the polls rather than showroom floors. Last month's vehicle sales took a 14.2% decrease when compared with those of May of 2023. Motoring writer for Sunday Times, Thomas Falkiner, joins us now with further insights on those numbers. Thomas, a pleasure. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for
Excellent,
being here.
excellent. Yeah, on your pleasure.
All right, this was quite a plummet, 14.2%. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so, elections, obviously, people are unsure. People are, were scared of what might happen. And obviously, when that happens, people don't want to spend money and they want to keep what they've got. And you can factor that in as well, with the increase of fuel, consumers have been hit. And so I mean, we've seen 9 months of new car sales decline. May, I think it was May or April, it went up a little bit, but on the whole, people just aren't buying as many new cars as they were before.
Thomas, is South Africa becoming a used vehicle market?
I would say so. I think if people do want to upgrade their cars, they're looking at sort of used cars, maybe 2 to 3 years old, where they can get some savings over purchasing a brand new vehicle and then incurring the depreciation. What
does happen to hold true in South Africa, though, is just Toyota's dominance. Let's talk about that.
Well, Toyota is a very, very, very popular brand in South Africa. Consumers like the brand because it kind of has that heritage of reliability, dependability, and good resale value, which is another thing to consider when purchasing a car. They've got 3 cars in the top 10. Obviously, you've got the Toyota Hilux, which is number 1, and then you've got the Corolla Cross coming in at number 4, and then further down the top 10 you've got the Toyota Starlet, which is also proving popular, especially with first-time buyers.
What's interesting is the popularity of the Hilux. I want to put that against the Ford Ranger.
Yeah.
South Africans love a bakkie. It's always been the case.
South Africans love a bakkie, and it's interesting because the Hilux is, it's kind of getting on. It's a bit long in the tooth if you compare it to the new Ranger, which was released, I think it was last year, which is a newer car, a lot more modern inside, feels a little bit more refined compared to the current Toyota Hilux. But there is a new Toyota Hilux coming out soon, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But Ranger is still, it's number 2, it's snapping on the Hilux's heels, and it just proves, that Toyota's, that South African consumers do love a double cab.
Yeah, I've heard some ladies speak about a double cab. It's very interesting. Let's also talk about the fact that in South Africa, our minibus taxi industry relies on Toyota. Does that also give it a strong footing?
I think it does. Minibus taxis form part of the light commercial vehicle segment, and obviously, minibus taxis are immensely popular all over the country. So, it definitely does help in terms of their overall sale figures.
Thomas, we saw Toyota dominating, VW right behind it. VW used to be, I think, the entry-level vehicle of choice.
Yeah.
It's not giving entry-level pricing anymore, is it?
I don't think anybody is really. I mean, if you look at the price of new cars, they are super, super pricey. I was able to purchase a new car back in 2006, and that was a Ford Fiesta, and I think I paid $136,000. That was brand new, out the box, all the mod cons. If you skip forward to the here and now, there's no way I could afford to buy a new car that compares to a Ford Fiesta. So I think it's challenging times, and if you look down at the entry level segment of the market, there's a lot of value to be had there, and the competition is immensely stiff. So you've got the likes of Toyota, Suzuki, Hyundai, all those guys are fighting hard to get consumers money.
What does that mean then for German vehicles? They've always been an aspirant brand in South Africa, to drive a German car. But of course, besides the fact that they're very expensive and most South Africans are just priced out, what does it mean for demand for these vehicles? Well,
look, I mean, it's still kind of there. If you look at Volkswagen, their most popular car is the Polo Vivo GT, which is, I think it slotted in 3rd or 4th last month. And then further down, you've got the Polo, the normal Polo. So they're still popular, but they're not as popular as they were. and that's purely because of pricing. And I think consumers are finding more competitive cars for less money.
What's also interesting is the rise of Suzuki. Let's talk about that.
So Suzuki, as I said, consumers looking for competitive value for money buying propositions out there, and Suzuki has it. I mean, they've got the Espresso, which is very affordable. They've got the Baleno, they've got the Celerio. So you've got 3 cars which are giving consumers a lot for their money at a price that most people in that segment can afford. So that's done wonders in terms of Suzuki sales. It was interesting, in April they were the 2nd biggest manufacturer in South Africa. They actually knocked Volkswagen down to 3rd. But May, it's been swapped out again. So VW 2nd, Suzuki 3rd, but it's impressive nonetheless.
There's also a very interesting one here, Thomas. SUV, but not quite an SUV, the mix. I think that's where the Toyota Cross plays.
Crossovers.
Yes. What is it about this segment?
People just love crossovers because it kind of gives you the SUV experience. You ride higher, you can see further ahead, you feel more confident, you feel, less intimidated out in, sort of everyday traffic. And it's a status thing as well. I think if you have an SUV as opposed to a hatchback or a saloon, people are like, oh, okay, this guy's got a bit of money, he can afford it or she can afford it. So I think, it's a status thing and it's a lifestyle thing as well. An SUV or a crossover body shell does give you a little bit more space, especially with something like a Toyota Corolla Cross. You can get a lot of stuff into it, a lot of people, a lot of families, pets, friends. So from a practicality point of view, they also make sense.
What is interesting, though, is a few years ago, Renault came out with the crossover that wasn't as successful as the Toyota. And I'm wondering if that's got to do with just brands and what people deem to be reliable, and maybe even that resale value that you mentioned.
I think it's brand perception. I think a lot of the modern Renault products are very good, and they've improved immensely since, back in the 2010s and stuff like that. But there's still that perception that it's Renault, it's French, I'm not going to get the parts support, and especially resale value. If you're buying something, you want it to hold its value. And whereas a lot of the Renault and French and imported stuff, not so much. People are going to think, second-hand Renault or a Citroen or Peugeot. Do I really want to spend that much money on it when I could get a Toyota or a Volkswagen, which it's always going to be in demand. People are always going to be keen to buy them. So, yeah.
Well, that's it, Thomas. Vehicle sales depressed, 9 consecutive or consistent months of decline. We're still trying to see what we'll do with interest rates, but are we expecting that 2024 is just not the year for new vehicle sales, or could we redeem it in this next 6 months?
I think it might look up in the second half of the year, and I know some financial institutions like Westbank are predicting the same thing. Elections have come and gone. People are feeling a bit more confident. Let's see what happens. Let's see how the government fares. If load shedding stays low as well, that could also be a good thing. And if fuel prices, continue to go down, because we have seen a big reduction coming into June. So if that is a trend that continues, then people might think, okay, things aren't that bad. Let's go and spend some money and let's buy myself a new car.
Wonderful, Thomas. Thank you for this chat.
Sure, you're welcome.
That was Thomas Falkiner. He's a motoring writer for Sunday Times.